Welcome to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast. Each week, the FSBO Authority, Ernie Emad, broker, owner of One Premier International Realty, brings you his over 17 years of experience and insight, helping for sale by owners navigate the process of selling their home while avoiding the pitfalls and selling for the highest amount. Now, from our glass enclosed studio in Coral Gables, Florida, your host and For Sale by Owner Authority, Ernie Emad.
Welcome to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast. I am Ernie Emad, broker-owner of One Premier International Realty and also known as the FSBO Authority. And welcome. Our podcast is going to be on YouTube, on the FSBOauthority.com, on our Facebook page, and also on iTunes as a regular podcast, so you can watch and listen. By the way, this is the first time we're broadcasting from our office. It's a work in real estate office, and today's podcast is all about insurance from a for sale by owner's perspective. How has the COVID-19 affected homeowner insurance availability? What insurance companies look at in a home inspection? When is the home not insurable to a buyer? And we'll also touch a little bit on cast iron pipes and water damage coverage. That's all on today's episode, Insurance from a for sale by owner's perspective, but also for sale by owners or buyers. And there's going to be a lot of information if you're a buyer regarding insurance. This episode is episode 6 of our podcast, so thank you for coming aboard. And it's brought to you by Insurance Depot and by One Premier International Realty. First, I'm going to give you an inspirational quote. The message is clear: plan with attitude, prepare with aptitude, participate with servitude, receive with gratitude, and this should be enough to separate you from the multitudes. That is from Chris Dunham. So that is from The Inspiration of 365 Days a Year by Zig Ziglar. Our guest today is the owner of Insurance Depot, and he is Andres Guilarte. And he has been in the insurance business for many years, and I'd like to welcome him here to the For Sale by Owner Authority. Good morning, Andres.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So we've got some great information today that you're going to share with our listeners and viewers. But tell the viewers and listeners a little bit about Insurance Depot for those that have not heard it, because you're a very high-producing agency in the state of Florida. So go ahead and tell them a little bit about Insurance Depot.
Hi. Yeah, so Insurance Depot is a multi-line insurance agency. We offer all the products under the property and casualty, which is everything from home, auto, life, commercial, property, business, watercraft. We've been in business 24 years. Our office is in South Miami, and yeah, that's our thing.
Fantastic, beautiful. So. If anybody needs to purchase insurance or receive a quote from you, how do they reach you?
So, one of the ways that we can be reached is by calling our office Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 at 305-443-5758. We can also be reached online at www.insurancedepot.usa.com. You can also text our office number and our email, which is our office number at insurancedepot.usa.com.
Perfect. So let's get into the first segment, which we're going to discuss 4-point inspections and what items insurance companies look for when writing new homeowner policies for a buyer of a single-family home, and what important role does the insurance agent plays before presenting the insurance results of those inspections to their carrier to avoid denial or even higher premiums. But first, Andres, let me ask you, we're coming to a point in South Florida where many roofs are to their life expectancy, or they may not have the life expectancy that an insurance carrier is looking for. And I know some sellers tell me, but I have insurance. Yeah, but you don't have 3 to 5 years worth of life expectancy, so the buyer, it makes it difficult. So can we cover exactly what insurance companies look for in the 4-point inspection, because that's really what they require, correct?
Correct. So the 4-point inspection, when you're going to purchase a home, if the home is over a certain number of years old, okay, normally over 25, depending on the insurance company, or 35 years old, they require what's called a 4-point inspection. The 4-point inspection looks at 4 different things. It looks at the electricity, how up to date the electrical work is in the house, how up to date the plumbing is, the air conditioner, and the roof. It's a very basic inspection, but at least it lets the insurance company know how well these 4 things in the home are. As for the roof has to have at least 3 years remaining useful life in order for the insurance company for a admitted insurance company to accept the policy.
Now, many years ago, they would just take the word of the inspection company or the roofing company that supplied some kind of a written life expectancy. But I understand now they actually go by the permitting on the municipality. They check when the last roof permit was to determine an actual age of the roof.
Yeah, correct. So, the inspection process has gotten a lot more stringent, more strict. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of fraud behind it, and not just fraud alone, although that's the major thing, but also a lot of just not correct details, So the insurance companies require a licensed inspector who's been trained and has gone through courses on how to prepare these roof inspection forms, which are uniform. That means it's the same form approved by the state for every insurance company. So the insurance company uses that inspection, and they match it with the information that's on a public record. And there usually cannot be a discrepancy. So they try to do a very detailed work on trying to find out the information of how old the roof is, when was the last time. They may even go as far if there's anything that doesn't look right in the sense of discrepancy between what the permits say and the inspector says, they may go back to the insured or the prospect and ask for copies of checks that they may have paid a roofer, invoices, and they'll dig a little deeper just to really get the true age of the roof and how good the roof is or not.
Got it. What do they what could get an insurance denied from a buyer? Because once you have insurance on your home, it kind of probably doesn't matter even if you have cloth wires, right? Because they don't know about it and they're just continuing to insure the property. But when a new buyer comes in, then that's when the issues come about.
Yeah, this usually happens more on older homes. So obviously a newer home, in regards to the plumbing, the electrical, those things are pretty standard. You're usually going to have copper wiring for electrical, and you're usually going to have PVC for plumbing. Mm-hmm. On the older homes, you may have, for plumbing, you may have not PVC, you may have copper tubing, old tubing that can corrode and that kind of thing. That's what the insurance company is looking for. And the same for electrical. It could have cloth wiring. It could have an old breaker system. It could have the knob and tube. I don't know if you remember the old electrical panels that had the turning.
Absolutely, the fuses.
The fuses.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some of the things that can get you denied by an insurance company.
So if you have a home that is more than 30 or 35 years old, obviously they're going to require the 4-point inspection. If it's less than that, they don't require any inspection. The buyer is actually doing an inspection more to find out the condition of the home, but the only thing that then would be supplied to the insurance company, and we'll get to that on our third segment, would be the wind mitigation.
Yeah, correct. So the 4-point is still required. I think the maximum year age, and again, every private carrier, and I say private because there's the state insurance company, who happens to be our largest insurer in our county, in Dade County, and then the private insurance companies, and all private insurance companies have different guidelines, but most of them, they'll require a 4-point if the house is at least 5 years old, 5 years old or more. they'll require 4-point.
Oh, so really? So that they will require 4-point no matter what.
Correct.
They don't require then a wind mitigation. That the wind mitigation, when we'll get into it, is more just for the savings and the discounting.
Correct.
Okay.
There's a small little technical part which is called the roof certification, and that part that comes into where if you did the 4-point and the roof doesn't show, some people have part of the roof they replaced and the other part they haven't. So the insurance company wants a deeper understanding of how good that other part of the roof that wasn't updated, how good it is. So there's another inspection called the roof certification, and that gives them a little bit more detailed information on the entire roof of the home.
Now, while we're on the subject of roofing, let's say you're a homeowner, you're thinking about selling your home, or you're currently a for sale by owner selling your home, and your roof is past its life expectancy, or based on when you did it's there, right? It doesn't have the 3 years that's required. Will a buyer be able to get some kind of a supplemental insurance that may be a higher cost, or is insurance for a buyer almost impossible if there's no life expectancy on a roof?
So yeah, that's a good question. So the buyer, if the roof of the home has passed its life expectancy, the buyer can still purchase the home if they provide the insurance company a signed letter stating that they plan to renew or replace the roof within the next X amount of days, usually 30 to 90 days. So they'll get an exception, they'll still be able to get a policy.
Do you know if lenders will accept that type of a policy that has a 30 or 60 or 90-day expiration? Right?
Well, the thing is that the lender really doesn't know that at that point.
They're just getting a policy that covers it on the day the loan is issued.
Correct.
Okay.
And then if not, the prospective buyer can get what's called a surplus lines property policy.
Okay.
Now this is it's kind of like a little bit debatable policy of sorts in Florida, because surplus lines policies are not backed by the Florida Department of Insurance. So to say that quickly,
it's an alternative product.
Correct. And then it basically every insurance company that's allowed to do business in the state of Florida has to be registered with the Florida Department of Insurance. Basically, all that means is that the Florida Department of Insurance guarantees that if this company goes belly up, they will
step in
and take over any claims.
Right.
Now, there's these other companies that want to write in the state, and they're called surplus lines, and they're not backed by the state of Florida. The policies.
So if they go belly up, you're out of coverage.
Correct. And that's usually by an agent. It's not ever recommended for a customer, because you don't want to put a customer in that predicament.
Unless.
Correct. For example, I've had clients that have had claims on the roof. Insurance company has canceled it. They haven't had time to replace the roof. They need to get a surplus lines policy until they finally replace the roof, and then we'll go ahead and switch them back from a surplus to a private carrier.
Got it. So that's very important. If you're for sale by owner and your roof does not have the life expectancy, you kind of have to weigh the cost of having to give a credit to a buyer if it doesn't pass the life expectancy, and we're not even talking about a roof that is not dry, right? I mean, a roof that may have leaks or something, forget about that. But we're talking about a roof that just passed its life expectancy. You have no leaks, but we know that in the inspection process, it's not going to pass for the buyer's insurance purchasing ability, which then his lender won't give him the insurance, so they're going to pay more. Do we have an idea? Is it a 30% higher, 40% higher premium when you go to a surplus company? And when you go to a surplus company, is it a 12-month policy and then it's cancelable if you don't renew it? It's a short term. Well, you said it was only 90 days. Are there any of other insurance companies that a buyer can buy that maybe gives them 1 year that may be non-renewable, so it gives them more time to then come up with the money to do the roof?
Yeah, so the surplus lines policies are annual.
Okay,
and
good.
You're only charged for the amount of time that you use the policy. So in 3 months you get the new roof, you can cancel that policy
and get reimbursed for the
difference and whatnot.
Correct.
For the listeners to understand, if I wasn't, if I didn't explain it well enough, is usually the best thing is for the seller to provide a credit, really, if the roof doesn't have that remaining useful life, because you're not giving that buyer an opportunity to get coverage through the proper avenue.
Yeah, and you don't want to go through opening up permits and going through the roofing and delay sales 1 month, 6 weeks, especially when we get into the wet season. It could just, you really want to do is give the proper credit.
Correct.
No question about that. That's great information, by the way. Thank you. On our next segment, you'll learn what type of insurance policies are needed when a buyer buys a house and the important role that the agent and the age of the roof has. So we're going to look at it from a buyer's perspective when we come back to the For Sale by Owner Authority.
Insurance Depot, Florida's largest insurance agency for auto, homeowners, renters, business, health, life, motorcycle, and boat marine insurance. Our business hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also visit us on our website 24/7 at www.insurancedepotUSA.com to chat with one of our licensed agents right away. Or text us at 305-443-5758, and one of our licensed agents will respond promptly. For more information, download our free app from the App Store or Google Play, where you can view insurance policies, request a quote, make payments, or file a claim on your tablet or mobile device. Insurance Depot. Better rates, better selection, better service.
With hundreds of brokerages, thousands of agents, how do you cut through all the noise? One Premier International Realty, a boutique real estate brokerage located in Coral Gables, doing business the old-fashioned way, putting people first. Buying, selling, or leasing residential and commercial properties in Miami-Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties? One Premier International provides each customer a high level of service and communication experience with full-time agents from around the world bringing their unique sense of business skills and a foreign customer base. One Premier International Realty. You've heard of private banking. Now experience private brokerage, a higher level of service and knowledge. One Premier International Realty, 305-669-0233, or go online to www.onepremierinternational.com. We are back to the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast. We're found on iTunes and everywhere your favorite podcast is found. And now on YouTube, Facebook, and the FisboAuthority.com. If you like what you hear, follow, like, and share our podcast channel. And take a minute to leave a comment. I'd love to hear your feedback. And thank you for joining us every single week. I'm your host, Ernie Emad, the For Sale by Owner Authority and broker-owner of One Premier International Realty, located in Coral Gables, and I'm always available to take your call. Our guest today on the For Sale by Owner Authority podcast is Andres Guilarte, and we've been discussing your home's buyer's inspection report and what the carriers are looking for from a For Sale by Owner's perspective. So now we know the types of insurances that a buyer is going to do and how an insurance company looks at it, specifically with roofing and the 4-point. And now I want to discuss a little bit about wind mitigation insurance and the mystery of the discount structures. Many people think, well, if my door opens in, now I fail the wind mitigation, I can't get the discounts. But it's per area, correct? So explain to our listeners exactly what goes into it from an insurance company's perspective about a wind mitigation.
Sure. So the wind mitigation inspection, first and foremost, is an optional inspection. Okay, and it looks at several different things. One of them is the opening protection. Opening protection meaning that all the openings in your home are protected against windstorm.
So let me ask you a quick question, because you said something very interesting to me. Optional. A lender doesn't require wind mitigation. You can actually get a 4-point if your home is older than 5 years. And that's sufficient for the insurance company and the lender. Now, if you want discounts, then you would pay the extra amount of money to have a wind mitigation insurance.
Correct.
Inspection.
Correct.
Perfect.
And I
Okay.
was going to mention that as
Great.
well.
Thank you. Go right ahead.
So it's optional. It 100% recommended, especially in our state, just so you can get additional discounts because rates in Florida and again Dade County are drastically high. So you want to do everything possible to reduce your premiums. So the wind mitigation looks at opening protection, and then it looks at 4 or 5 different other variables, and those variables are how the roof is attached to your home. There are different materials and different things that are used to tie your roof to your home, and depending on the year that your home was built and what code in the city that your home is in, will depend on what materials and what was used to tie your roof down. So let's start with the opening protection. Opening protection means every opening in your home. So every window, door meaning garage door, has to be protected. So
Let me ask you a question on that. Is there a difference in the price whether I have accordion shutters that I purchase at the Restore, Habitat Restore, or impact windows?
yeah, so that's a good question. I wish there was just one answer that I can tell you yes or no, but here's what happens. With a state carrier, Citizens Insurance, Property Insurance, again, the largest insurer in our county, there's no difference as long as it's protected with a protection that is that has been
Dade
tested.
County approved,
Dade County
correct,
approved.
with the stamp or the sticker or whatever.
And basically what that means is that it's been approved that it can withstand certain amount of speeds, wind speeds, if there's a projectile going to hit it.
To meet the codes at that time when you put the windows, correct.
Some insurance now then the private market insurance companies give you sometimes some of them 2 different discounts. One, if you have, let's say, wood panels, you went to Home Depot and you bought plywood and you protected your windows, it's usually a small credit. Or if you have Miami-Dade approved.
So even if you're a home seller and you're concerned about selling your home and you have only plywood, the buyer can still get a credit on their insurance policy. Not as great, but still a credit.
Correct.
So better than having no protection.
Correct. So opening protection means either that you have impact windows and impact doors, or you have accordion shutters, or the shutters that you go ahead and you manually put yourself and tie them on with nuts and bolts. One of the things that happens sometimes is that you'll have prospects or clients that have, because what happens is that throughout the years this keeps changing. So what was acceptable 5 years ago or 10 years ago, then 5 years ago it changed, and
Right.
now 5 years ago it changed till today it's changed. So the rules today are that all the openings have to be protected. Back in the day, if you had all the windows but not the door, that would be okay. All the protection. So here's one example of something that happens. I have all my windows and doors protected, but my garage door is a garage door that's 15 years old and it's not a hurricane impact garage door. You won't get the credit. You could have one small window that is not protected and everything else could be made of steel and you won't get the credit.
You won't get the credit for the
Opening protection.
Very interesting because let's say you have a policy that is $5,000. What is there a percentage that you can? It's kind of hard because
Yeah.
it's a mystery,
Yeah.
really.
Thank you for mentioning that. I know that's the important part. The biggest discount in the wind mitigation inspection is the opening protection portion, and that represents up to 45% of your
Wow,
premium.
so it's huge.
Yeah, it's enormous. And when you say $5,000 in homeowners, that means that you're getting the credit. That means that your policy probably was costing you $12,000. Or a little bit less, but something like that. The discount is enormous. So that's why you have to if you have hurricane opening protection, you have to get the inspection because it's a drastic reduction.
And you have to make sure that your garage door meets that.
Absolutely. And when you mentioned earlier about your front door, so one of the things that changed throughout the years that if your front door opens inward, as some doors still do from back in the day, that's not, even if it's a hurricane impact door, the hurricane impact doors no longer open inward, they open outward. And that's just because, again, the wind. If the wind is pushing up against the
Right,
door,
correct.
they want it to open outward.
Right.
Um,
A little easier for a thief also to get in the house if it opens in one little kick and you're there. So part of this program is always to look at things from a for sale by owner's authority or for sale by owner's perspective, so that when you sell your home, obviously if you hire a real estate professional, and I'm hoping that you give me that opportunity, you'll be guided through this to minimize what you'll have to reduce in credits or even in the price when it's negotiated, or even when the buyer receives the inspection, then wants to renegotiate the contract because of all of these issues. So this is very valuable information to begin if you have your home on the market or thinking about selling it on your own, to start to look at these things before putting it on the market, so that there are no surprises when it actually sells.
Ernie, if I could just add,
Absolutely.
for this segment, for the seller, something that would help is that and I only tell you because this has happened to some of my clients before, is that if you have one window that doesn't have the opening protection, or you have old panels, you can go to Home Depot and buy the Miami-Dade approved panels that are really inexpensive, and buy them for all the openings, and then provide that as a benefit to the buyer for the home, and say, hey, my home.
They have to install them, right? Obviously, they have to go through the screws and so forth, get them installed, because
Yes.
the inspector's going to want to photograph or at least see that
Absolutely, but it's very minimal, the cost. You can get a handyman to put the
tracks,
tracks.
and you're there.
And it's it's attractive to the buyer. It's great for the seller.
Without no question, as we know, we're approaching June, right, in a month or so, and the beginning of the hurricane season. And a couple of weeks ago, they came out with a list of, and we're going to have an active season according to the Hurricane Center. So it's a good time to start thinking about all of the minimal things that you can do that brings great value to your home and security and assurances to a buyer. Those are the real key things.
Yeah, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. If make sure your panel's up to date, the electrical panel's up to date, and that your roof at least has the 3 years remaining useful life, because you will make the process much easier for your buyer, and you'll make the process much easier for yourself as far as selling.
Absolutely. Well, that's great information. Again, it's also a good time to, we have, stay at home. There's still a lot more people at home, and it's a good time to start reviewing your policies, see what you're paying for your policy, seeing if you're getting all of those discounts, and give Andres Guilarte a telephone call at the Insurance Depot and compare your policy with what they're offering. It's a good time to save money, specifically if we've been hurt economically from COVID-19. The actions that you take today by making that phone call and getting a professional that's been in the business for more than 25, almost a quarter of a century in insurance, that can really save you money. And the money that you save is a residual savings. It's year after year after year. So it's worth your time to make that call. Andres, how do people reach you?
Yeah, calling our office is usually the best way. We love talking to our clients. I know that nowadays we deal a lot with electronically, but please call us 305-443-5758. We'll be more than happy to review your policy at no cost. It's a pleasure for us to get to know people in our community. We don't necessarily need to sell you a policy for it to be a service for us. We actually love to help customers out, and we can review your policy and tell you, hey, look, we don't want to sell you anything, but go ahead and talk to your agent and ask them these questions. This may help you get a reduction or whatnot in your policy. It'll be a pleasure for us to do.
Great. What's your office address?
So it's 6710 Southwest 80th Street and Suite 101.
Right around the corner from Big Cheese.
Yeah, that'd
So
be
it's very easy to find, no question. It's an iconic building in the area. You park on the roof, and just by saying those things, you're going to know exactly where they're located. So it's a beautiful building.
You can't miss it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Folks, now more than ever, we can see the importance of a cinematic video walkthrough for your home. You know, as a for sale by owner, fewer buyers are driving around these days and staying at home. And with a video walkthrough, your home will stand out above their competition at Blue Hour Studios. They specialize in just that. From this moment on, consumers will expect it and sellers will demand it. Cinematic video walkthroughs for all of your listings. Professional photography, cinematic video walkthroughs, on-camera video tours, and professional voiceover narration. I'm Ernie Emad, head of BlueHourStudios.com. Blue Hour Studios is a progressive visual and audio powerhouse producing high-end video and audio productions. Become an expert in your field with a professionally produced podcast from our studio in Coral Gables. Call Blue Hour Studios today to elevate your image and voice. BlueHourStudios.com.
Insurance Depot, Florida's largest insurance agency for auto, homeowners, renters, business, health, life, motorcycle, and boat marine insurance. Our business hours are Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You can also visit us on our website 24/7 at www.insurancedepot.usa.com to chat with one of our licensed agents right away. Or text us at 305-443-5758, and one of our licensed agents will respond promptly. For more information, download our free app from the App Store or Google Play, where you can view insurance policies, request a quote, make payments, or file a claim on your tablet or mobile device. Insurance Depot. Better rates, better selection, better service.
Welcome back to the For Sale by Owner podcast, found on iTunes, YouTube, and the FSBOauthority.com. And now, here's the FSBO Authority, Ernie Emad.
All right, welcome back, and you're watching live on YouTube as well as our Facebook page, as well as the FSBOauthority.com, and it's on iTunes. So don't forget to share our podcast. Along with me today is Andres Guilarte. He is the owner of Insurance Depot here in Miami. We've just had some wonderful information that you've provided to our listeners and those watching. Specifically, there's some good nuggets for buyers, but definitely for a seller. You really are going to know exactly where you are at when it comes to insurance from what a buyer would need to make sure that you can maximize the amount of money that would end up in your pocket. You know, I want to briefly talk about cast iron because as I'm selling homes, it's a big thing. You know, we go through rashes of things, and I understand that South Florida has been maybe an epicenter for water claims, and the fraud in water claims has spiked. And I know insurance companies are reducing coverages for that. But recently, buyers come in and they ask, do you have cast iron pipes? And so that's something that is on the forefront of many buyers' minds. Talk to us about cast iron.
Yes, unfortunately, this has been a rising part of insurance claims on homeowner policies. I have friends and I have clients that are not have only dealt with it, but are currently dealing with it. The problem with cast iron piping is that throughout the years they tend to deteriorate. You know, that has a lot to do with the year of the home. It can cause major damage. So we've had customers that have had cast iron collapses underneath the kitchen, underneath a bedroom. And when something like this happens, I mean, basically the entire inside of the home needs to be broken. Customers need to be moved out. Clothing needs to be removed from the home because of all the dust, repaired and whatnot. Nowadays, there's a lot of technology that allows a buyer to maybe foresee these things. They put cameras now through the piping and allows to see if there's any breakage of plumbing or anything like that. But yes, cast iron can be a problem for water claims in the home.
Are you seeing less coverage offered? Meaning, many years ago, well, I don't even think they ever covered the pipe, only the breakage to get to the actual pipes. Are you finding, so let's see, the seller has a home, doesn't have any plumbing issues, but it was built in the 70s, early 70s, where we know cast iron was prevalent during that time. And he's not disclosing any plumbing problems. Do you recommend a buyer go with a camera or so forth? Or if there is no problem, you're going to get full insurance. But are you telling me that the insurance companies are just not going to be as generous if something goes wrong?
Yeah, thank you for asking me. Here's what happens. The insurance companies, the part that they get a little technical with the coverage for water has to do a lot with mold, right? So when you have a breakage of plumbing behind the walls or whatnot, you tend to get mold. And mold is something that you as the owner of the home won't realize until it's become kind of a big problem. And it becomes a big problem because when you have mold, it's not as if you can just paint the wall and it's gone. You actually have to, mold is something that grows behind the walls. The sheetrock can spread throughout the house, can cause respiratory issues, especially with children. So you got to go in there. Companies that are qualified and licensed to do this, in hazmats, so they got to protect themselves. They got to remove parts of walls, sometimes cameras, and see where all this mold has gone into. So it ends up costing the insurance company a lot of money because this is a process that's very, very expensive. So insurance companies now allow, either by endorsement, some private companies by endorsement, you can reduce that coverage or you can buy more of. Some don't include it at all. Very few companies are actually covering it to the full extent nowadays.
But you can purchase additional coverage if you have a home that has cast iron that is not experiencing anything, and you're buying that home. And is it expensive?
Correct. I would advise any buyer of an insurance policy to always purchase as much water coverage as you can. It's going to be more expensive. Now, is it crazy expensive? No, it's not. It's going to be a few $100 more a year, but the actual cost.
My God, when you're talking about many insurance policies, if we take a average price in Miami of around $450,000 with full mitigation discounts, a normal property maybe that's been built in the last 5 to 10 years, where they could see an insurance policy of around $5,000 to $6,000. Am I near the ballpark of about 1%, or are you seeing it a little bit higher?
Yes, you are. So you're very close. On a newer build house within 5 to 10 years, with all the credits and whatnot, should pay somewhere around $3,500 to $4,500.
Okay, so on an older home, that's still $400,000 or $500,000, depending on the neighborhood, right? That may have cast iron. They get the 4-point inspection. Everything is clean, and so you're telling me that just a few $100s, right? You have a $5,000 policy, maybe $500 or $600 more per year will cover that additional water damage. Correct. To the maximum that you can.
Correct. Normally on a home that's the year build is older, you should be paying somewhere $4,500 a year. Okay. But the coverage to increase it's a few $100 more, should be.
Again, that's really powerful information. Because throughout all the years in business, it's not something that's offered. That's why it's so important to have an agent with this much experience that is just not being recommended by a realtor or by a friend or a family, to actually bring these options because most people just call around, get the cheapest price just to get the insurance, or they're allowed their mortgage broker or lender or whatever, use this person, and they're just trying to get you with the lowest policy to fit you in with the lowest mortgage rate, the lowest everything, and then you find yourself
correct
with an issue.
Correct. The important thing is for the buyer. I don't mean to interrupt.
Mm-hmm. No, not at all.
The buyer to be informed and know, for you to provide them the options. Because some buyers can't afford. It's a moment where they're also going through a big cost. So, but the important thing is for them to know, so that if something does arise in the future, they know it was presented to them. They know what they have as far as coverage, and they can also understand that the agent, as well as the insurance and the realtor, did a good follow through as far as letting them know, because the worst would be for the customer to find themselves with a surprise. And so yes, offering and letting them know all these things is very important.
Look, obviously, you can't. This is not like buying a television where within the first 12 months you can go and upgrade your water damage. You'll probably need a new inspection, right? Because if you 9 months later or 18 months later decide to
You
call
can't
your,
add it.
you can't add it. No. So this is a point of purchase time.
Correct.
To add those French fries or the apple pie, because later you just can't add that coverage. And right?
Yeah, it gets way more complicated after. You have to cancel a policy, write a new one. You got to go through that headache. So you want to do it right from the beginning.
You want to do it right from the beginning.
And, have your agent present you with, 3 or 4 options. This is the policy bare minimum. This is the policy with a little more water coverage. This is a policy with a higher, lower deductible, et cetera, et cetera. And keep copies of all these things.
Is there anything else that I have failed to bring up that you think is important for either a seller or a buyer?
I think one thing that's important that any financial person would advise a customer is that always check your policy yearly. I understand that it takes time and we live busy lives.
And who understands them most of the time?
Exactly.
Right?
And who understands them. But ask the questions and review them annually. And the reason is because specifically to homeowners insurance in Florida, rates fluctuate a lot. So you get a price today, but next year your rate may go up, your rate may go down, your rate may stay the same. But the rate really doesn't have, aside from the year built of your home and the credits that you have, a lot has to do with the performance of the insurance company. So if they had a lot of claims during the year, that means that next year rates will probably go up for policy holders because they got to make up for that difference. If they had little claims this year, rates may go down and so on and so forth. What you always want to be on, you want to ride the wave always on the
lower claim wave.
On the lower claim wave. And the same applies to auto insurance and all these things. So you want to every year grab your policy, call your agent, or have 3 agents. You give them your policy, always have a file with all your paperwork, all your inspections, and say, give me a quote, and give me 3 quotes. I want a quote with water damage, without water damage, with replacement cost, without replacement cost. There's a lot of different moving parts.
And a good agent does not look at his work.
Oh, absolutely.
You're there
not.
to service.
And a good customer appreciates that.
Absolutely.
And appreciates where it came referred from. Mm-hmm. And really that's our work, and that's where we find joy in it. And that's the only way that we do business, really.
Yeah. So an insurance agent is someone that, like an accountant, like an attorney, it's someone that you should have some type of close connections with, some kind of close communication with, because we are in South Florida, we have hurricanes, we have all kinds of, and it's nice to be able to pick up your phone if you have communications with that agent, as opposed to just going online and using an unknown person, and then you're just a number. There's no one you can call except maybe a call center with a bunch of people answering the phone call, and you lose that personal touch that we're all really wanting in today's world.
Plus, you want to be careful, because if you go to the online version or a call center, they usually want to sell you the cheapest thing, and unfortunately, sometimes because you buy the cheapest thing, you may suffer later on. Yep. Not to say that that's not something you would have chosen, but you want to give yourself the opportunity to know what you're buying and know what you can buy, what you can add.
Yeah, you definitely don't want the cheapest policy, but you want the best value policy
exactly.
For your coverages. Absolutely. And one last thing before we go that people don't tie in. Many people keep their car insurances at those lower amounts, but because property values over the last 10 years have gone up by more than 113%. People have more equity now. It's also time to review their policies, even if they have investment properties that have gone up in property, and they may not have sufficient auto coverage that can put them at risk for people going after them. Should they increase those coverages in a car based on their assets to protect them?
Absolutely. So there's 2 parts to that you mentioned, and one of them is really important regarding the homeowner side.
Homestead, we're okay because you're protected in the homestead, but many people have investment properties.
Correct. So the insurance companies insure your home based on the reconstruction cost. So let's just say a house in a lower income neighborhood that's 2,000 square feet, and a home that's in a high value neighborhood that's 2,000 square feet, the exact same home can have two different market values, right? But the reconstruction cost is usually the same except for the fixtures that you have in the home. And that's another important part for your listener to understand is that your home is worth. You should have your insurance policy reviewed for the amount that it's insured for every year. Because if you insure your home today for $400,000, if that's a reconstruction cost, and insurance companies have a calculator that basically.
Where can we buy that calculator?
Yeah, right.
Right.
You can. Insurance companies basically it's a calculator insurance companies have, and they input today's current values of construction. So you enter the information of the home and its fixtures and the size and whatnot, and it gives the insurance company an approximate of what your home is worth, over the value of the reconstruction of the home, and that's what they insure you. That's what they insure you at. You cannot insure your home. Let's say you have a $400,000 home that costs to rebuild, and you say, well, I only own $50,000, and so I just want to insure $50,000 worth. You can't do that because the insurance company can later on be sued for not having insured you adequately. So they have to insure you for an approximate value of what that home is worth. And this is something you also want to check annually because the insurance companies raise this automatically. There's a percentage built into the policy that every year they'll increase it because insurance costs are supposed to, reconstruction costs are supposed to increase every year, but not necessarily do they every year. In some years they actually go down. So you want to also check, you want to have your agent check that
you have adequate coverage in case something happens, especially if you own your home for 20 years, 30 years, and you haven't changed policies.
And that you're not overinsured either.
Well, so that's a good point.
So, and then in regards to your second part to your question, as the auto coverage is absolutely, you want to make sure that if your financial position in your household has increased year after year through the years, you want to visit your auto policy and see if you have enough liability coverage. Liability coverage is the coverage that protects somebody else in the case that you're at fault in a car accident, let's say. So if you are and you don't have, your policy doesn't have enough money to cover their injuries, they can come after you and your assets to help pay their further damages. So you want to make sure that you have the adequate enough coverage under your auto policy to protect yourself in the case that you cause injury or liability to somebody else and they want to come after you and your assets.
Right. So home here, auto here, you want to have the same person, make sure they combine it. Very popular to bundle services nowadays, not just for the savings, but only to be able to give you that information. Because if you have your home insurance with a company A and your auto insurance with company B, they're not talking to each other, so they can't advise you, or they're not going to ask you questions about your auto insurance because it's not on their books. And
yeah, it can become an issue.
Correct.
It's more convenient, and yeah.
So one last thing is, what type of insurances does Insurance Depot provide? Because I know it's not just homeowners and not just auto insurance. So tell our people what gamut of products that you have before we go.
Sure. So we have a wide range of insurance products. I'll give you the main ones, which are everything that's watercraft. So marine and boat insurance, jet skis and whatnot. We also do motorcycles and we do a business insurance for the business owner, whether if you're a restaurant owner or you own a real estate office or a doctor's office. We do those as well. We do property coverage. So if you have a warehouse and you're a shipping company and you need to insure your cargo or you need to insure the valuables in your company, we do that as well as directors and officers liability. We do life insurance as well. So we do pretty much a full spectrum of insurance coverages for anybody who needs has a need.
Perfect. Well, you've given incredible information, very valuable information.
Thank you.
I hope everybody feels the same way that I do specifically. And I know dealing with so many sellers and buyers on a yearly basis and throughout my career, the importance of this information so that you can be guided properly and save money and have the proper courage. So I'm very grateful and thankful that you were on today's program. So thank you for taking Sunday morning
Thank
for
you for
coming
having
by.
me. And if your listeners or clients have a question, and if they didn't understand anything I said or they want a little more clarification, please feel
Give them
free
that
to
number
call
again.
me,
Absolutely.
and I'll be more than happy to clarify it for you and take as long as needed to help you understand what's important and coverages. So yeah, our number is 305-443-5758.
Andres Guilarte from Insurance Depot, right here in Miami. Again, thank you very much.
you.
By the way, he was on our podcast this Friday. It's called The Scoop on Miami, and that can also be found on iTunes, YouTube, and scooponmiami.com and our Facebook page. And he spoke about insurance, auto insurance, specifically in today's market where somebody may miss a payment. So if you're a seller finding yourself in hardship, correct, we know that you have some alleviation with your mortgage, but there's some great information there in that program, Scoop on Miami. So if you get a moment, listen to that segment with Andres Guilarte. We also had Chef Brian Hill, who was the personal chef of Mariah Carey, Mary J. Blige, Eddie Murphy, P. Diddy, and he just opened up a restaurant called Chef Brian's Comfort Kitchen at the Sunset Place in South Miami. It was a fun, energetic program. I'm sure you had a great time.
Yumbrella.
The Yumbrella, correct, there. So it was just a wonderful time. So check it out. Andres, thank you so much for being on the For Sale by Owner Authority.
Well, thank you for having me. Really.
Again, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week on the FSBO Authority.
We've come to the end of another For Sale by Owner Authority podcast with your host and FSBO Authority, Ernie Emad, broker owner of One Premier International Realty. I hope you feel armed and informed to either sell your home as a For Sale by Owner or by hiring a real estate professional. The For Sale by Owner Authority podcast can be found on iTunes and YouTube as a video, as well as our Facebook page and on the FSBOauthority.com.